Hello, everyone. Welcome to Natty News, the nattiest news show in the world. My name is Andrew the Natty, and I'm joined by two extremely strong guys today. Of course, we got the future physiotherapist Pat Wu, but we have a special guest, Andy. Pat, can you give our guest Andy a real natty introduction?
Yeah, we'll do a little introduction here. Andy's a good friend of mine who we've been talking for a while, but I actually just met him in person last weekend at weightlifting in Nanaimo, which is crazy. But we got Andy on today. He's a talented Supertotal athlete, meaning that he competes in both powerlifting and weightlifting. He actually just got off competitions on consecutive weekends for both, so we'll talk about that. We'll let Andy talk about his best lifts later, but just casually, he's as about a 70 kilogram lifter. He's done a 365 bench press. He's snatched 114,
112.
112.
112, yeah.
112 kilos. He can clean over 140. He's clean and jerked 140. So really strong, not just because he's good at weightlifting and powerlifting, but the unique aspect is that he's able to do both at quite a solid level. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the intro. Andy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. A bit tired. Just got back from work, which has nothing to do with lifting, which makes it even tougher. Yeah, but I'm really excited to join, and thanks for inviting me.
Oh, no worries. I mean, that just makes everything even more impressive that you work a regular day job and you can still do these crazy lifts. So, how about we kind of start off with a little bragging? So, let's hear it. What are your top power lifts and Olympic lifts, just to give a bit of reference about how elite you are in both of these sports?
Oh, I wouldn't call myself elite, or I don't think my numbers are that brag worthy, but let's start with weightlifting. My best snatch is 112, Pat just mentioned, 140 clean and jerk. Squat, not my favorite lift, at 180. Bench press, just done a 155 in competition, did 165 in training, the bro bench. And deadlift, 232.5, I think around 515 pounds.
And you weigh in about, you're in the 74 kg class, right?
Yeah, I'm usually sitting around, I'd say 72 kilo because the weightlifting class being a little lighter at 73. So I don't really like water cut. I used to be a 69 kilo weightlifter. That's before they changed it about 2 years ago. And I had to water cut that. That just wasn't my favorite thing. And so I thought, I don't really want to deal with that anymore. So I'm usually trying to maintain my body weight at slightly lighter than the weight class.
See, it just blows my mind that you have like three times body weight deadlift, 2x bench press, like, and you also do train all the Olympic lifts too. Like, that is such a crazy total. And yeah, for those listening, unfortunately, Olympic lifters don't want to use freedom units, so we're talking about kgs here.
You should technically
It's
be talking in kg even in powerlifting, but for the sake of the video, we'll I can convert that.
it sounds
Uh,
bigger.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. Don't worry about that. But just don't want people to be confused, being like, "Oh, wait, I can deadlift 100. I can deadlift 300 pounds. What is this guy talking about?" Nah, nah.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude. So those are some pretty high numbers. Let's maybe start from the beginning. What got you into lifting and training? To begin with, like, what's your background?
So I don't have any athletic background. So my first day in the gym, it was actually really interesting. So one of my buddies, a really close friend of mine, he got dumped by this girl. And then the girl went for a really buff dude. And then he didn't want to go to the gym alone. He's like, Andy, go with me. Go with me. Go with me. He's been nagging me for at least 2, 3 weeks. And then I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. So yeah, I went to the gym for the first time, had no idea, never watched any video, was never interested. I think I was once told by a friend that I should join him to do weightlifting in high school. It's a really strong friend, but I was just too scared of all of that. I thought I was going to injure myself. That was when I was 17. So I never tried that. I regret it very bad. I hope I tried it when I was 17. Probably would have been a lot stronger. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's about. I started lifting about six years ago.
Damn. No athletic back. Like, yeah, you never did any sports competitively before that point, hey?
No, I was an artistic kid. Still am, but yeah, I'm in the
And that's really, yeah, and
artistic
that's
field.
really crazy, right? Like, you wouldn't expect that just if we just followed your lifting, you would never think artistic kid, no sport background. People would probably think you were an athletic freak. So it's really interesting to think about.
Uh, yeah, usually it depends because I think some friends they either know me from before and some friends they know me from only after I started lifting. So like you guys, you know me from my lifting, but then some friends when I haven't, let's say friends I haven't seen in 6, 7 years, when they see me, they're like, "What happened to you?" Because I used to weigh about 57, 125 pounds before I started lifting.
Yeah.
And so usually that's pretty shocking to a lot of my friends when they see me after not seeing me for so long.
So I have to ask though, did your friend was he able to bulk up and get his girlfriend back?
Oh no, he didn't. But then he did get a really impressive bench press at the time because we ended up doing like a little race. He was stronger than me in the beginning, and then can't remember what we were racing to, but yeah, he won that competition. But I beat him afterwards.
You know, as someone who struggles with their bench press, I think an impressive bench might out be better than a girlfriend sometimes. So I can totally see that.
Oh yeah, girlfriend is just one girl, right? Bench press is brings you more.
Well, bench press can get you a lot of boyfriends.
Oh yeah, definitely. Girls are not interested in your bench press.
Not at all.
Oh man. But yeah, no. So that's really cool that you were kind of started a little late than some other people, but still were able to find a lot of success. What kind of got you interested in competing?
Competing. Let's start with how I kind of learn about these sports because when I got to the gym, I think I would say the first entire year, I had no idea what I was doing. It was just being a bro. You know, after going to the gym for 2 weeks, you start going on YouTube videos, six pack shortcut, all those YouTube videos. I'm sure a lot of people are aware of
Yeah.
that. And then I got into calisthenic for a little bit. One of my goals was to do one muscle up. And then, yeah, I was just looking at different strength sport. And then I found out about powerlifting about 1 year in the sport or into lifting. And yeah, I was really impressed how these smaller lifters, because my first impression is always building big, but I never really like looking big and then not being able to lift a lot. Does that make sense?
Definitely makes
I
sense.
don't like walking on the street looking so big and looking like, oh yeah, you definitely go to the gym. You have no life other than gym. I really didn't like that. So I was really excited when I found out about powerlifting because you don't have to look like that to lift a lot of weight. So I got into that, but I never actually competed because of I think I was just insecure about the weights I was lifting and being a smaller dude. And then so I was in Europe when I first found out about powerlifting, and I went to the gym, and there is always these people lifting, grunting super loud, and then you start seeing different variations, right? Like people arching for a bench press. You start seeing variations in squat, high bar, low bar, sumo, conventional. And then I got curious. So I asked these people, and then they start telling me, oh, you should train like this. So I found out about programming. And this is about like 1 year, maybe 1.5 year after I started lifting. So that I started following online program. And then it got me somewhere, nothing too impressive. And then when I was going to move back to Canada, I talked to a friend of mine who was from my high school, the weightlifter who tried to get me in when I was 17. I
Yeah.
said, can I use the gym? Can you teach me how to squat and deadlift? Because I was being a bro. So all I did was bench press, dumbbell bench press, incline bench press, decline bench press. Never squatted once in my life. So yeah, I joined the gym. I joined my high school gym. It was free. And then the coach, he was a super old guy. He said, you have to give weightlifting a shot if you want me to teach you how to squat. So
Oh.
yeah, I gave it a shot, and then he saw how deep I can squat, how fast I was. And then I think after that, he was just so fixated on the idea that I have to do weightlifting. So yeah, I started weightlifting in my high school gym. Um, and then I did maybe in my first competition a year after that. But I think the reason why I really want to do competition is because I find a purpose in doing the sport. There isn't like, chasing PR it's fun, but then you're always going to be wanting more. And what if you don't reach that, right? So I think in a sense, I found confidence in competing.
So that's really cool that you kind of started both at the same time, if I'm hearing this right. You learned about powerlifting in Europe and started doing the programming. And then when you went to the gym back in your high school and you wanted to learn how to squat and deadlift, then your coach was saying, hey, you got to get into weightlifting too if you want to do these movements.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was exactly what happened. So I think I only got into powerlifting training for I'd say 3 to 4 months before I was forced to do weightlifting. And I was forced
Oh,
to cut
okay.
off I was forced to cut off bench press. I had to secretly do bench press elsewhere because I love bench press. I wasn't allowed to do heavy deadlift because in weightlifting you're only doing clean pulls, snatch pulls
Mm.
Yeah.
with weightlifting shoes, not flats. So I think that I guess professionally, well, I wouldn't say professionally, but my first coach was a weightlifting coach. And I started from there. But there's always that desire wanting to lift heavier weights instead of, snatching 60 kg, 70 kg, because, I want to deadlift a lot of weight. I want to do 2 plates, 3 plates, 4 plates, right? So I always secretly do my own little training in the commercial gym. Nobody knew
Sounds
about
like that
that.
theme still exists. With
Oh yeah.
some of you guys haven't seen the crazy stuff that Andy does. We'll talk about it later. Andy does some crazy stuff in the gym. But Andy, I wanted to ask you though. So you said that first weightlifting competition a little bit. It was about a year after you started working with the coach or whatnot. What were your lifting numbers when you did your first competition?
So the first I think let's say the first max out session I did, it's like an in
Yeah,
club competition. That
yeah.
was about, I'd say, a month after I started. It
Okay.
was 65 snatch and an 85 clean and jerk. So this is about 1 month to maybe 5, 6 weeks in. And
Yeah.
then my first competition was 101 snatch and 127 clean and jerk.
That you put on a little bit on the snatch in that meantime. What happened?
Oh yeah.
That's like that's a lot.
I think I just got smarter, finding the right people, got curious too, always looking at watching videos, how to improve. And then because my first weightlifting coach, he retired.
Mm.
And so I had to join a different club, and then the environment was totally different. It wasn't a high school gym anymore. So
Yeah.
I felt like I was pushed way more when I was joining a different weightlifting club at the time.
I see. I see. Now, so I know you hang out at Iron Throne Gym. Shout out to
Mhm.
them now. But so where was this club that you were at after you got out of the high school gym situation?
It's a Lions weightlifting club. So they're still doing, I think they either change their location. I'm not too sure right now, but I'm still talking to a few weightlifters from there.
Yeah.
And but yeah, Lions weightlifting club, I think they had tons of crazy strong athlete. And yeah, that was and also just a lot of my friends, because my first coach, he retired. Most of us moved to Lions weightlifting club. So it wasn't just like going to a new environment, not knowing anybody. It was you with your homies training together, drink afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was that type of lifestyle.
Do you think also maybe being with some like high level elite athletes that kind of motivated you? It was kind of like seeing some other people doing so much weight. Did that kind of like help push you to go to the next level as well?
Yeah, I think I always liked the idea of being the weaker person in the
Mhm.
gym. I felt like there's always so much more to learn. I never felt lost. There's always guidance. There's actually always people there telling you, hey, don't do this. Hey, do this. You know, there's competition. Go do this competition. And I really like that type of push in that sort of environment.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's a whole idea of like iron sharpening iron and being kind of the weakest one. The only one you have is up. The only place you
Oh
can
yeah,
go is higher and
exactly.
higher.
Mm-hmm.
It's
That's
probably one of the reasons I like competitions. It's I mean, I think me and you now we don't get to regularly train with people who are way stronger than us, and it's you go into a competition, you realize like you're really the small fry, and you
It's really
see someone put
humbling.
on yeah, you see someone put on 180 kilos, and put that over their head, and you're like, ah, okay, there's
Yeah.
way more to go.
So I'm a little curious though. So you did so much of this weightlifting. You went to these weightlifting gyms. What got you? When did you do your first powerlifting competition though? Because you're secretly training the powerlifting movement. And so then what kind of makes you? What made you do the next step of doing both types of competitions?
I did my first powerlifting competition. I think it's the end of 2019, so this is very late into the
Oh,
training.
it's pretty recent, yeah.
Um, yeah, that was my first one. I think I did two or three bench press only competition
Yeah.
before, but I've never done a full powerlifting, and I just did my second one 3 days ago.
Oh, this is only your second one.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just never, because it's just with programming, right? You never really had the chance to. You need a certain amount of time, and I was chasing bigger goals in weightlifting. Wanting to be at nationals was one of the biggest goal, and that took me quite a bit of time. In the beginning, I got, from in a year, I got to 120, 127-ish clean and jerk, but after that, it just wasn't that easy. Sometimes there's a year or two I only put up 1 kilo or nothing, right? So it always felt like it's so close to you, but I was never able to reach that until 2 years ago or last year.
Was it 2021 or 2020 nationals? That was the first one you qualified for.
Uh, I think I qualify. No, I no because COVID last year, so never really got to compete last year to even qualify in the first place. But yeah, this I did my first nationals, weightlifting nationals this year, and you were there. We're in
That
the
was
same
also my
session.
first one. Yeah, it's the first one.
Yeah,
It's huge.
yeah, it was awesome.
Man, that's awesome, and that's really cool that like the powerlifting thing's been more of a recent endeavor. What kind of motivated you to do this first meet in 2019? Why did you decide to do it now instead of maybe doing more weightlifting? What kind of inspired you to be doing the super totals?
Uh, I'd say weightlifting is always there. I never really stopped doing weightlifting. I usually compete. I think I competed I competed every year. Um, but what the reason I did powerlifting is because I guess it's my gym. It's majority of the people there are powerlifters,
Mm.
and you get curious, and you actually now I have guidance to do powerlifting just like what I had with weightlifting back in Lions. So, tons of great people, learned a lot, and then I hired a coach. Then he was able to offer me hybrid program, so that was a bonus at the time. So I worked together with him and prepped two competitions. It was a weightlifting same year in the summer, and then we continue on the program to peak for powerlifting, and we eventually did that in I believe it was December.
Man, a hybrid program. So how did that work doing kind of both of them? Because they're both so CNS intensive.
Uh, I'd say being able to commit to this also means you need to know that you're never going to get too far in any of them. And the definition of being too far, I guess, is just depending on how good, how much time you're willing to devote into.
Mhm.
Um, but I would say if you want to get good at one of them, you probably should just do one of them. Um, but sorry, I forgot the question. What was the
No,
question again?
no problem, man. No, I was a little curious about like how would you program both of
Oh,
them,
programming.
but I think
Uh,
you actually opened up a more interesting topic about the mentality of that because you had to accept that you're not gonna get great at both of them at the same time. So how did you kind of overcome that whole mental barrier of accepting that, hey, I've been focusing on weightlifting for so many years, I'm gonna do this powerlifting thing now, and then it's gonna slow down my weightlifting a little bit.
I think I was just being really calculative because I know, okay, look, if I want to do powerlifting or if I want to do weightlifting, I need this much number to go to Worlds, which is probably never going to happen in my life. Same as
Mhm.
powerlifting. So even if I just do one of them, right? So I believe being able to go to Worlds, I probably need something like a 170 clean and jerk, 175 to even qualify for one. Same as powerlifting. So then I start ranking it down and see, okay, what are the possibilities if I want to do both? So it seems like, being able to potentially qualify for nationals in both powerlifting and weightlifting would be a pretty interesting option for me with how much time I have. So yeah, that was the option I chose.
Yeah, so it was kind of a bit of a calculation of like, okay, worlds might not happen, but I could probably be nationals at both of these.
Yeah, that was why I decided to do both. I guess if I was in a situation where one of them was a lot better than the other, I probably wouldn't have done this.
Yeah,
That
no,
makes sense. How close are you to the powerlifting nationals total? Are you already qualified?
Oh no, I'm not there yet. I pretty close. Powerlifting competition is a little bit different. What I noticed is usually people go a lot more conservative compared to weightlifters.
Hmm.
Um, Usually, I guess if it's not there, it's just not there. But weightlifting, there's always that maybe I can make it
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah.
So powerlifting competition, I totaled at 550 kilo last weekend.
Hmm.
I believe 580 is what I need for to
Whew,
qualify for
man,
national. But my best training is probably 580,
man, that
somewhere
is a
around that.
high total. I have no hopes.
I think for weightlifting, it's just the bench press part that seems like like or bench press and deadlift because most weightlifters are pretty good at squat except me.
Except me, also me. We had this conversation. We have some of the worst front squat to clean ratios of anyone.
Oh yeah, very efficient.
Yeah.
so I'm. Let's say one of the listeners here, they want to be just like you, Andy. They want to do both weightlifting and powerlifting, but they're confused about how would they program it. So could you maybe give a little high-level overview of what would be a training session for, like a training week for you, focusing on both powerlifting and weightlifting?
I would say that week does not exist. You don't have a week that is a 50-50 split. I would look at it in a bigger cycle, maybe
Mhm.
let's say 4-week block.
Hmm.
I think you wouldn't really do a 50-50 split in a microcycle or I'd say you always have to prioritize one over the other. I would say a 75-25% ratio from what I've been doing. I learned before I got any coach that was helping me with Supertotal training or hybrid training. I found some really informative videos on Juggernaut's YouTube channel, and
Yeah.
then where Chad and what's the other guy's name?
Max Ada.
Yeah, Max, they talked about programming. And
Yeah.
then I think also just know that, again, like I said earlier, it's probably going to be really hard to excel in both of them. But a really key point that both of my coaches have been doing is you want to be able to utilize the other sport as an accessory to
Mm.
the other lift. Let's say, uh, for example, like my last block, I didn't have any clean pull or snatch pull.
Hmm.
Unlike most weightlifters, you would do that after your classic lift, right? I was programmed with a lot of stiff leg or RDL, deficit deadlift, conventional deadlift, and
Right.
but also it goes into like fatigue management. So what are you prioritizing let's say this week? So if powerlifting is what's more important, then usually you would do powerlifting first with more technical correction in weightlifting, and vice versa. If you have a heavy clean and jerk, you'll probably finish off with, technical speed deadlift or something like a secondary squat variation.
Hmm. I see. I see. Yeah, it's like a rotating focus. So I'm assuming leading up to before we had weightlifting in Nanaimo, it was probably like 75, 80% of the weightlifting. And then and then before your comp last weekend with powerlifting, you probably shifted that to that powerlifting heavy focus, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'd say like 1 week out for because I did the weightlifting meet first. When I think 1 week out from weightlifting, there was almost I think my deadlift, my volume for deadlift was drastically dropped to
Mm-hmm.
somewhere around 70%. But then
Yeah.
just not long before that, I was pushed to a really, really heavy weight that allowed me to have that long taper. But at the day after my weightlifting competition, I had to go for my second attempt on a deadlift for three singles. So, and I had to do that day. Otherwise, it's just gonna the my fitness level is just gonna drop to a point where I'm not gonna be able to perform on the platform.
Insane.
Yeah, so this is like to be able to do this, you really have to commit to the programming and have to be pretty serious about doing both in order to succeed.
Yeah, I'd say there's a lot of experimental, even though at with both of my coaches being super experienced, they both warned me, you're not gonna get the best results, but we'll see what we can do. And you know what? They actually both turned out really good. I was surprised how being able to shift a lot of my time doing powerlifting can actually benefit my weightlifting.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then I actually hit I hit a competition PR in my powerlifting too after weightlifting meet. So that was pretty interesting.
Seems to
Yeah.
work. Tell us a little bit more about that. What did you find in the powerlifting aspect that was beneficial to your weightlifting this time around?
This time, squat definitely helped trying out low bar squat. It was a lot
Mm-hmm.
of fucking around because I have no idea how to do that. I was asking the strong squatters every day, bugging them, "Hey, is my torso too upright? Am I hitting depth?" Because in powerlifting, where your goal of doing a back squat is to squat as much as possible within the
Right.
rules, right? Whereas weightlifting, when you're performing a back squat, is for you to be able to stand up from a clean or a snatch. Um, so I think having the different objective where weightlifter squat, you're pushing it more like a bodybuilder. You're doing it harder. I wouldn't say the harder way, but the way that works your muscle more
Yeah.
rather than lifting more weight because they're totally different
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Nice.
Squat helped my clean and jerk. I think it helped my pulling strength for some reason. I was able to have a longer extension.
Yeah.
And what else helped? I don't know about this, but I feel like bench press helped my overhead position. But it's also because I don't really bench with my pecs. I do the more Japanese grip style where I'm utilizing more of my lats.
What on earth is a Japanese
Yeah,
style?
I have not heard of the
Oh,
Japanese
Tell us
style.
more.
so Japanese grip. So in powerlifting, where you have your bar, there's that. I think we have our snatch grip, right? So in powerlifting, I believe they have that. I can't remember the name, but I think it's called the power ring or something. If you see a CrossFit bar, you usually see two rings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one on the inside is the powerlifting ring.
Okay.
So in the powerlifting rule, if you want to grip wider than that ring, you need to be able to fully cover the ring. And
Okay.
I think it was I think it's 82 centimeters or something. But obviously, the wider the bench grip is, the less range of motion you're gonna have. So what you do is instead of benching with your wrist straight, you will go even wider and then rotate
Mm-hmm.
it back to cover the ring
Okay.
Whoa.
to maximize your
Whoa.
grip. And there's been a lot of really, really scary bench press that was done with this technique.
That
Man,
sounds pretty scary to me. Holy.
yeah, because I was always taught about like stacking the joints, so stacking the wrist over the forearm, but what you're kind of doing is bending it a little off that center line, and I mean you're benching like over 300 pounds, like some pretty heavy weights. That's pretty intense. I did not notice that detail in watching any of your videos or anything. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'd say your hands are a little bit more diagonal where it's not really resting here. it will be
Yeah.
closer to your palm, the meat of your palm. So it's not really putting lots of stress. You just need to play around with that. I'd say it doesn't really feel that different from a regular bench press.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
And so then you mentioned then with that position you're using more of your back. So I'm guessing um and yeah, because I've seen a lot of powerlifters who do kind of do like the larger arc. It seems more of like a tricep back movement than any pec activation because you're not really flexing your chest that much in the bottom position.
Yeah, I'd say the closer, if your grip is super close and the bro bench press, it would be more of a tricep activation from what I know. If you start going into the regular grip, I think that's where you get the most out of your chest.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, maybe being that wide, I'm using my chest, but I know that my chest isn't really getting tighter because that's usually pretty evident in snatch. So if you
Right.
see a lot of if you're going for a regular bench press grip, I would say you want to do a lot of lat stretches, maybe like let's say flies or something to stretch, so you don't have a forward overhead position.
Mhm. No, this is some great tips. So kind of like going back to all the five lifts. What would you say is your favorite and least favorite? Like, you mentioned like the squat's been a little tough for you, but would you say that's the toughest one for you to get stronger on, or is there another one that you might find more difficult? And which one of the lifts do you think you're the best at, or the one you enjoy the most?
It's pretty seasonal. It depends. I think it's usually whatever you're good at right now, whatever you're focusing, that it seems to improve is what's squat was once my favorite too, but not anymore. That's my least favorite now. But I love front squat, right? Um, I'd say in powerlifting, bench is probably my favorite. Deadlift is not bad. I definitely love I don't like clean and jerk, but I love the jerk part more than anything else. It's satisfying.
I could say the jerks are so cool to watch because it just feels like gravity doesn't exist. Like I don't know how you guys do it. It's just like the weight just magically comes overhead.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how most people think jerk is the harder lift. I would disagree with that. Clean is very mental, just being able to get under the bar because you're trying to pull maximum strength and then pull yourself under the bar. And it's almost like doing two of the opposite things at the same time. And that's been the biggest fear. But jerk is like you miss it, you miss it. You're not going to break your wrist, you're not going to break your elbow. I hope not. Um, but yeah, I'd say like if you're just comparing snatch and clean and jerk as the classic move, I would prefer snatch more than clean and jerk, but I do love jerk more than anything else.
Oh man. Well, Andy, one of the things that really got me interested is you mentioned your love for bench press, and as some of the listeners might know, I was blessed with orangutan arms, and I struggle with bench press. I hate it, but as a bro, I need to hit three plates once in my life. So have been working on getting that sweet, sweet three-plate bench. So what would be your best bench tips for all the bros who just want to get those plates on the bar?
Uh, for bench press, my biggest tip is to be as technical as possible. I know there's a lot of, especially when you go to commercial gym, there's always these people telling you, oh yeah, you arch a lot, you're wearing a wrist wraps, or what other things. You hear a lot of these things, but you know what? Being able to be technical is always going to take you further in any sports and also a lot safer, right? Um, really focus on warming up your joints before you start benching. I really like face pull with bands and then just being able to engage the opposite muscle. If you're benching, you want to make sure your lats are warm so you can control, you have a better control on your way down, and do your accessories. Always do your accessories.
It's what all the experts
No.
say.
Yeah. And then if you want to be a hybrid athlete, I would say do accessories that help both weightlifting and powerlifting.
What would be your accessory recommendation?
Uh, I really like tricep dips, weighted dips, and for bench press, right?
Yeah, let's do it bench press.
different variations of bench really works.
Mm.
No feet or Larsen press. Pause longer on your chest. Do tempo. Tempo really helps the positioning. Uh, Other than variation for accessories, I'd say dumbbell press is always going to be something great because it hits a bigger range of motion. As I said earlier, tricep, and then just work on the opposite muscle, seal row, um, any sorts of row movement. I really like behind the neck snatch press. I'm not sure if it helped my bench press directly, but um, I've been doing it consistently, and I guess just strict press. That's what I would recommend.
This
Sounds
guy's
good.
good at strict press.
Oh
Andy, how much do
man.
you strict press?
Sorry?
How much do you strict press?
I just hit a PR at 90 kilo just
No.
last week out of nowhere.
What the holy crap, man?
This guy's good.
That's
I can't. I
insane.
will never catch you in that lift.
So that's like 198 pounds or something like that. Like just a shy
That was
under 200.
fast.
I'm sorry?
No, I was joking. I was teasing you. That was fast. That was a fast converting.
Oh man. That is
That,
wild, man. Holy crap.
Probably came from all the bench pressing this last block doing hybrid.
that's
Yeah.
true.
Because
I mean, you can
I
also bench 165.
not anymore, but yeah, I'm trying to see if I can bench 160 again this
You'll
year
get
before
there.
the year ends. Yeah,
You'll get
I
there.
hope so.
Yeah. Oh man. I would give up many girls to get a bench press like that. But enough about me and my bro fantasies. Again, I'm
Bro
actually kind
fantasies are great.
I am a little curious about like doing this kind of super total of bench and I mean not bench, sorry, of powerlifting and Olympic lifting. Do you ever feel like there's ever going to be a competition that combines them both? Like, do you think this is going to be an upcoming thing of these super total athletes coming up and starting their own type of lifting league?
Um, I don't think so. I've seen that before, but it's usually like a gym run, small event. I've never seen anything serious. This is whatever I'm doing this last week was the closest that I've ever been, that I've ever done to a super total. There were 6 days apart. I've been trying to find something like this, but there are always different time of the year. But I would say there probably wouldn't be an event like this. It's probably not that safe. And then you still want to be at your full potential at whatever sport you choose, right? And I think majority of the people want to be good at either or. And moving forward in the future, I probably would, probably make it more seasonal, focus a little bit here right now, maybe for the first half of the year, and the second half of the year focus on powerlifting instead. I don't think a 50-50 effort is a really, really good way to do this.
Right.
Yes.
You kind of might just get nowhere in some cases.
I'd say that's a very high possibility.
You do bring up a good point about like the safety of doing both on the same day, and I'm kind of wondering if hypothetically, let's just say this existed, what would the order be? Like, I kind of feel like you'd start with the clean and jerk, you do the
Or
power
snatch.
lift, and then you'd end with the snatches. I feel like that might be the best way of doing it.
Oh, if you could swap the order.
Yeah, so like, what would be your ideal order if you could move around these lifts in any order? What would it be?
I think you want to do powerlifting first, just because I want to be able to do a heavy deadlift before I can snatch. But then it's really hard to say because I would make sure deadlift and clean and jerk they're really far apart from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think bench press will probably be your filler because it doesn't affect anything. Yeah, interesting question.
Yeah, I
Let me
kind of
try
feel
to
like.
think
I have a
about it.
take on that.
Let's hear it, Pat. Yeah.
Okay, I think, and Andy you might agree that the snatch doesn't really kill you that much
Oh,
for the
no, it
most
doesn't.
part.
No.
So, I think we'd snatch first, and then we'd we clean and jerk second, and also that just makes sense to people who've been doing weightlifting.
You warm up the
then,
same thing, right?
Yeah. Then you'd squat. Now it's not going to be the most ideal squat, but you're already warmed up. Your legs are warmed up, and perhaps you squat after.
Toasted.
Yeah, or you're toasted. Whatever, you just throw it. Bench after that, which hopefully gives your legs a little bit of a break, and deadlift last.
Well, that would be I guess that would be the proper order of snatch, clean, and
Wait,
jerk.
that's just the regular order.
Yeah. But I think that probably would make sense too, especially if you want to be able to do both sports separately at any given time. It only makes sense to do it like that, right? I'd say if you're not really prioritizing a certain lift, if you're just equally training SPD or equally training snatch and clean and jerk, even in your training, you want to do it by that order. I rarely do clean and jerk before snatch.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
it just screws up the order.
Yeah. But I think one important thing to really, and then I learned this from powerlifting too, is they actually reserve energy for the deadlift. So they, what I noticed this last weekend, a lot of these people, friends of mine, I know what their gym PR and the squats are, but then they never try to break that record. But then they tend to push as much as possible on the last lift for a deadlift.
Right. I guess you don't want to burn out and then just like bomb in the deadlift.
Exactly. And I think deadlift also just has that higher chance of being, when you're very adrenaline driven, there's just more of a chance to be able to PR in a deadlift. And then, yeah, exactly. It's also the biggest lift, right? Like racially, it's going to give you the most total.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, if anyone's listening to this and they do make this event, please include the clean and press, my favorite weightlifting event that was taken out. I missed the clean and press. But again, we'll see if that ever happens. Now, a little more about, I guess, you were mentioning, Andy, that you work a regular full-time job and you do the training. So, like, how do you balance that? How are you able to do your regular full-time career as well as do some pretty high-level training for these spurts?
I guess I just don't do that well. Could have done a lot better, and obviously this is a life that was given to me. Obviously it's not optimal. I remember going to Kolokloff seminar years ago. One of the things he said is, "You guys are never gonna be good." I don't know.
I think I was there.
He said, "You guys are never gonna be good," and that thing stuck. And it's true. We're never gonna be good. If you really look at a powerlifting, I would say you can still be a regular human and then train. Because if you watch IPF's world video, they always have this their lifter info. They have their career. You'll see financial people in finance, people in different field, but I don't see that in a IWF world. It's your career has to be weightlifting, right? If you look at, I remember somebody mentioning I can't remember, a Taiwanese weightlifter's training. It would be like 12 session week, right? You have your AM session, PM session, and then on your off day, apparently you need to still do some active recovery. That's the life you get when you want to be a high level weightlifter. So I'm doing the best I can with the life that's given to me.
I'm very interested. I'm pretty interested in that quote that Clover was saying. Clover, my mistake. Can you maybe go a little more about? See, because when I hear that, I understand what he's saying. That kind of seems like a dick thing to say, though, to a bunch of people paying money to learn weightlifting.
It's true if you really think about it, because from my experience in weightlifting and then from coaching some of my friends, weightlifting numbers just go down right when you stop training. Right? Powerlifting seems to stick a little longer. And from, I guess Pat would understand this too, weightlifting, there's always this, how much strength you're working on and how much classic lift in terms of technique you have, because obviously the more strength you have, the you're able to perform and control your technique at a higher percentage. But if you don't have that, then no matter how good you are, you're always going to break your technique at a very high percentage. But whereas powerlifting, your strength training is what you perform on the stage. I believe that you can just repetitively do SBD and improve SBD unless you have specific weaknesses, but you cannot improve your classic lift if you only do snatch and clean and jerk. And I think there's just more component to weightlifting being able to, excel at a higher level. There's just too many components, even though I would say snatch and clean and jerk, you're pretty much working on the same muscle, but at the same time, the athleticism is going to degrade really quickly once you stop doing that.
Yeah. I agree. That's because the weightlifting, it's like a whole motor skill. It is, it's a motor skill. It's fast, and man, it's kind of depressing to think about it that way. The one day we're gonna stop weightlifting, and within like 8 months we'll lose 20 kilos off our lifts.
I don't think you need 8 months to lose that.
Yeah, actually, you don't need 8 months. You probably need 3 months, and then the mobility starts to go, and at some point it's like almost irreversible. Like you see some retired lifters who are coaches nowadays, like they can't do a front rack anymore. They can't lock out an overhead, and at that point you're screwed. You're done. Like you're truly done, right? Whereas for the most part, you'll be able to squat, bench, deadlift, even if you take a long hiatus.
Yeah, I would agree that.
Yeah, but I don't think Klokov was being I think he was also just being realistic with a lot of us, and I think it kind of is a bit of an issue in weightlifting community. People get very pretentious and like think they're some people think they're better than other lifters, or that they get all cocky in the gym because they can do snatch, but in reality none of us will ever be elite, so we should all support each other and like have a good time and train hard, but also like enjoy the time, right? Like you can't
most likely I think it's
yourself.
To have fun, because I've encountered multiple comments on you would have done so much better, especially from weightlifters.
Yeah.
Why are you doing powerlifting? Right? And then, you know what? Because it's fun. That's my answer. That's my only answer. I know, like, my weightlifting is probably going to get better if I don't do powerlifting at all, but then now I'm missing 3 things that I probably won't be able to do it in the future. So I want to be good at those things too, right? I'm happy to sacrifice a little bit of snatch and clean and jerk if that makes me happier to be able to do the other 3 lifts. So that's just my take on this. And I agree, if you want to be good at something, obviously you need to spend more time on that. But if you want to have fun, then go for it.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point with that. Like, Pat and I've talked about this before, and I think for myself, I prefer to be a jack of all trades and a master of none than be a specialist in anything. I kind of like, to try some stuff, get decent at it, and, move on to something else and get pretty good at that as well. So there's a whole give and take situation of that. I'm surprised to kind of hear that some people in the weightlifting community might have a little negativity towards you exploring these other avenues.
I think it's like Pat said earlier. I think generally, obviously, this is depending on the person, but I think there is always a little hierarchy going on in the community, whereas like our sport is in the Olympic Games and yours is not, and I'm more mobile than you are. My squat is a harder variation of a squat than yours. That's why you squat more. But you know what? We are all working for different things, right? I don't think a regular weightlifter is going to go to the gym and, randomly bench 3 plate on the bench press. So just like a power lifter is not going to be able to, they probably can power clean a lot, but they're probably not going to be able to snatch 100 kg. But you know what? There's always going to be those people that show up in the gym. I met a few people, they think their first try on snatch, they did a 90 kilo snatch. I don't know how they did that, but there are freaks out there.
I'm just kind of surprised someone be like, that's such a silly thing to be an elitist about. Like, oh man, I can lift more heavy weights than you. I am a better person.
You'll be surprised. You'll be very, very surprised in the community. It happens all the time.
Yeah, because I think you're right. It's all about having fun at the end of the day. But speaking of the future, what can we expect to see from you in the next coming years? Are we going to be seeing some more? Are you going to continue up with the seasonal training of powerlifting and weightlifting? Do you want to do more powerlifting? Do you want to do more weightlifting? What can we expect to see from you in the future?
After this uh, last competition over the weekend, I start, having some reflection on like the past few years, how I've progressed in both sports. And I really think it's probably time for me to really work on go back to the basic. And basic, I mean by general strength. And powerlifting is probably going to bring me further in that sense because I haven't really increased my, leg strength uh, too much. And I think part of it is because I always had a shorter like I guess a short-sighted plan where such as like I want to be able to hit a 140 clean and jerk. I want to be
Yeah.
able to snatch 110. I want to be able to qualify for national. So by trying to reach these goals, by going to national, you got to do provincial, or by going to provincial, you got to qualify for a local meet. Um, so there's never really enough time for me to really get back to the basic, to really work from the ground up again.
Hmm.
Whereas in the past, there was a period of time I wasn't able to do weightlifting, and I actually couldn't really focus on weightlifting for the entire year. But after that whole year, I brought my leg strength and deadlift up. I was able to hit multiple PRs coming back to weightlifting. Although I did have to rework on a lot of my techniques. So I think moving forward, I will probably emphasize a lot on general strength while working on going back at lighter weights in weightlifting and just really, take the time and work on my technique again, probably somewhere at like very low percentages.
Nice, man. Well, we're exciting to see that build-up period, and when you go back into more competitions, it's gonna be great to see how that all paid off.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Nice. When can we expect you to compete next in either
Um,
sport?
I'm thinking, if possible, I want to be, like I said, I want to focus more on powerlifting, but I want to be able to, be entertained by weightlifting. So if there's a weightlifting competition, if my coach allows, then I'm gonna just go have fun. I might not be able to be as strong as I was if I when I was focusing on weightlifting, but I'm sure the adrenaline or the built up leg strength is probably gonna give me some extra kilos.
140
Hopefully,
clean jerk every time.
I hope so.
Oh man. Well, that all sounds fantastic, and looking forward to hear it more. And you know what? We might have to have you on to see how this experiment worked out for you.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, any last questions you want to ask, Pat?
No, pretty pretty comprehensive. Thanks for the discussion, Andy. Is there any one you'd like to shout out? Your coach or gym? Anybody?
Oh, too many people to thank. And yeah, all the people who've been helping me, especially my gym at Iron Throne. Everyone's super nice. And if you haven't been to the gym, you definitely should go. Pat, I know you need to go too. You've been telling me that you're going, but we need to get a session down together. And same as Anwar, if you ever want to try weightlifting, you should come join us.
You know, I might take you up on that one day. Might need to work on my mobility. I don't know if I can get into a snatch position.
I heard they have a log press too at Iron Throne, so
No
that
way.
would be amazing.
I did a log press yesterday too.
Okay, if you guys have a log press, I've always wanted to do one of those, so I might have to come down just for that.
That thing is fun, but a lot of stress on your wrist. I think
Oh.
I probably injured my wrist from that yesterday.
Tape up, tape up.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and Andy, people who want to see more of your journey, want to see some crazy lifts, where can they find you?
Oh, I'm always so embarrassed to mention my Instagram. Pat, you want to say that for me?
Of course, it'd be my honor. So Andy's Instagram handle is no caps, one word, small boy lift big.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I don't know about being small. I don't think you're that small, but you do lift big, so that's for sure true. Oh man.
Thank you
Well,
so much for inviting me to the podcast today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you so much. Well, anyways, I hope all the listeners enjoyed it as much as we did, and hope you all continue making some amazing gains. And hey, if any of you've done any cross training with powerlifting, Olympic lifting, let us know. I'd love to hear more of these stories. I would love to actually see a super total competition. I'm gonna start Googling to see if those happen anywhere.
You should run one. I'll compete.
Oh man, you probably would take gold. I don't know too many people who do it. But again, thank you all for listening. Hope you all have a great day, and Natty News out.